Hello, Marvel fans! I hope you had an awesome Christmas and New Year's. Today, we're going to be making an ice effect for Marvel Legends Iceman, who is a bit of a boring figure to me anyway, because he doesn't come with any accessories or interchangeable parts. The materials you will need for this project are a low-temperature glue gun. You can use a regular high-temperature glue gun if that's all you have, but it's not my fault when you burn your fingers off. Glue sticks. I buy all temperature glue sticks, so that way it doesn't matter which glue gun I use them with. Ruler, pencil, disposable fork, such as the ones from fast food restaurants, parchment paper. Please note, parchment paper and wax paper are two completely different materials. Parchment paper is more expensive, and you could bake cookies on it in the oven. If you use wax paper on this project, you're gonna fail. Then, some optional materials are painting supplies and acrylic craft paint and gloss varnish. For the paint, I'll be using Apple Barrel brand blue cotton. We're going to start off by rolling a small piece of parchment paper into a tight cone. Parchment paper is slippery, so the bad news is we can't secure our cone with a piece of tape because it just won't hold. Of course, my next brilliant idea was to try to use a stapler. And I almost stapled my finger, because, I'm talented like that. Have you ever done that before? Please tell me I'm not the only person who has stapled their own finger. Anyway, hold up your cone, and with your other hand, mark off on the edge of the cone about 5 centimeters from the small tip. That will give us an idea on where we need to apply the glue. Now, when I was making the prototype for this design, I did a sloppy job doing the smallest cone because I figured, well, it's just going to be inside and won't be seen. So there's holes where the glue didn't get applied. But I kind of like the look of this piece with the holes more than the solid one I made later. But art is completely subjective, so do whichever one you like best. It takes a little while to get the hang of applying the glue to the parchment paper because it doesn't want to stick. Instead, the glue's going to be like, I want to be a cookie and slide all around. I recommend doing a ring around the base of the cone and letting that dry a bit before moving on. That will help keep the flap of your parchment paper down. Then I just apply more lines of glue, working my way towards my pencil line. When I approach the pencil line, I put down a decent sized blob of glue and then use the tines of a plastic fork to drag the edges of the glue to fan it out. I like using a plastic fork for this because you can pick the glue off it fairly easily, but if it does get too gluey, is that a word? Anyway, if it gets too much glue on it, you can just throw it out. I work in small sections at a time because one of the drawbacks of a low temperature glue gun is that the glue sets so much faster, so you have less time to work with it. But you could see how close my hands are to the glue, and that's why I'm not using a high temperature glue gun. I'd rather spend the day without blisters on my fingers. Speaking of blisters, when I was a kid, my mom had like the cheapest glue gun ever. I think she got it for free from buying some other craft supplies because it was absolutely terrible. It had no trigger, so you had to get the glue out by pushing on the stick of glue sticking out the back end of it, and then it would squirt the hottest glue ever. You accidentally touch the glue? Enjoy your new blister. Touch the nozzle on the end, blister. Oh, and it had like this rinky-dink little wire that was supposed to hold it upright, but that didn't work well at all. So when it started to fall over and you instinctively reached out to catch it, yep, blister. If the devil had a glue gun, he would own that one. Now we're going to make another cone out of the parchment paper. For my first attempt at this project, I made my second cone just a little bit wider than my first. This time though, I'm going to try to make the edge of the cone spread out a little bit more. So I'm going to wrap the paper around my first cone and keep it tight at the base. Then I flare out the opposite end. This time I'm going to measure and mark my paper 4 centimeters from the cone's tip. I apply the hot glue using the exact same process as before. So instead of talking about that, let's talk about Iceman. I'm a bit annoyed his figure is so bluish. It just doesn't look very icy to me. I know he's drawn sometimes blue in the comics, but that's so he'll have some shading and show up better. Kind of like how sometimes Venom has blue highlights. But I guess I should be grateful he's not made out of that same brittle plastic as the White Vision from the Target 3-pack. Now I'm going to make one final cone for this effect, and this time I'm going to make it 3 centimeters long. I need to think of a name for this effect, other than just referring to it as Ice Effect. Ice spray? Ice spray. Oh, that kind of sounds like what happens when Iceman goes outside to take a leak. Here comes the ice spray. Oh, wait a minute. Can Iceman even pee when he's in ice form, though? Probably not, because it would be all frozen, right? And that would just hurt. If you've heard kidney stones are bad, wait until you try to dislodge an ice spray. We probably shouldn't be talking about this, since it isn't a very appropriate or mature conversation. It's a good thing I'm not mature then. Iceman is an Omega level mutant, so I think it's safe to assume he has very good control over his powers. I'm pretty sure he's Omega level. I'm going by memory here, which is very dangerous to do on the internet, because if I'm incorrect, I'll have to read several comments a day telling me how wrong I am for the next 6 months. Anyway, I'm pretty confident Iceman is an Omega level, very strong mutant, and I'm assuming when he's in ice form, his heart is still circulating blood through his body. So, if his blood isn't frozen, maybe he could make sure his other liquids aren't frozen too. That's it. I'm changing my mind. I'm gonna say Iceman can do whatever he wants in ice form. How did I get so off topic? Oh yeah, naming this thing. Well, if ice spray is out, maybe we can call it Ice Blast? I don't know. If you have a better idea, let me know in the comments down below. Now my third layer of glue has set, so I could separate my 3 cones, and we could pop them off the paper. See how easy that was? Now, if you didn't listen to me at all, and shame on you, and you used wax paper, your piece is going to pull off part of the wax paper with it. And it's going to look all cloudy like this one, with parts of the wax paper stuck to it. You'll get a little bit of cloudiness from the parchment paper, but nowhere near as much as you would from wax paper. Now you could either glue your 3 cones together, but I like to keep mine separate for more options. Mine fit tight enough together that the friction holds them together, but if yours are looser, you can stick them together with a little bit of poster mounting wall putty. I think this effect looks the most like ice when it's unpainted. But Iceman is blue, and it makes a stark contrast between the two of them. So what I'm going to do is apply a small amount of paint to the interior of my cones using the blue cotton shade. The paint will be the thickest at the base, and then I'm going to drag it towards the end so the paint will taper out and we'll have a nice gradual transition. I want to leave the ends of my effect unpainted. After I'm done painting, I'm going to seal everything with some glossy varnish. I pick glossy because, well, you know how ice gets that shiny appearance when the temperature rises and the outer layer starts to melt? Yeah, that's what I want. After the sealant is dry, you could stick them to Iceman with a little bit of poster wall putty, or just jam the effect on one of his fingers. I've used both methods in my photos, but you have to be pretty quick to take a picture with the poster putting method, because it just doesn't want to stick. And before we go, I have some photos to share from viewers utilizing some of my previous projects. The first photo is by Alex von Frankenstein, who gave my Spider Sense project a try, and I think it turned out great. Spidey is in some real trouble here, but, well, at least he knows it. Next, I have a photo by Abhishek Rott Photography from Facebook, with a gorgeous picture of Doctor Strange meddling in some magic he shouldn't be. Then it's Second City Toys on Instagram with a Ghost Rider chain weapon. It looks wonderful, and I'm blown away by so many of my viewers' photography skills. The final photo is by Brian, who sent me his take on the Doctor Strange magic, and I'm impressed. He was able to scale it down even further for the 4-inch Marvel Universe scale. The effect turned out beautifully in gold. If you want to make any of these projects, check out my Crafting for Action Figures playlist for instructions. And if you've tried any of my projects, I'd love to see your photos too. Just send me a link to your photos or send them to me on a social networking site. Just make sure to say I have your permission to share your photos and what name you'd like me to use to give you credit for your work. And that's all the toy fun for today. Feel free to check out my other videos for more crafts and reviews, and you could always subscribe if you'd like to stay updated. Thanks for watching.